This day came a lot sooner than I expected it to, and I'll be honest with you, I've never been so happy to be wrong. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and today we're going to be checking out the Samsung S95 TV. That would be the Samsung OLED TV based on Samsung Display's QD-OLED technology. And when I say I was wrong, I did not expect for Samsung to be coming out with this TV quite so soon. As a matter of fact, when we went and checked out the Sony A95K OLED TV, I said it was the first QD-OLED TV to come out. But as it happens, Samsung is beating Sony to the punch. This TV is going to be available in just a matter of weeks and at an even lower price than we expected. But I get ahead of myself. Let's get into what we know about this TV and also what we don't yet know. So I want to start with the television's design because I think that's a key attribute to the TV that differentiates it from, well, honestly, the Sony A95K. It is a classic TV design. Sony's not trying to reinvent the wheel here, especially with the stand, which is a very simple, elegant stand with a very small footprint, which I think is very important. Also, you'll notice that there's plenty of room for a sound bar below the TV without blocking the television, which I think is a big deal. A lot of folks mentioned, hey, where's the room for the soundbar on this Sony? Not a problem here with the Samsung TV. It is a very stable stand. It's got a little bit of weight to it. And then that takes us to the profile of the TV, which is expectedly super thin. Of course, we do have a little bit of a bump out towards the back. That's to be expected. We need the hardware to go somewhere, but the top portion of the TV is probably thinner than your phone, as we would expect for an OLED-based panel. Now, while we're back there, let's talk about inputs. This TV does offer 4 HDMI 2.1 inputs, all 4 of them. One of them is an eARC port, so it's probably going to be busy doing the eARC job. But if you want 4K at 120 Hertz with variable refresh rate, you've got 3 different ports that you can use to achieve that, or 4 if you don't need to use the eARC port for its intended purpose. Now you'll notice I did say 4K 120 Hertz, not 144 Hertz. I'm going to get to that a little bit in the gaming section, but let's continue on with the design of this TV, and I have to talk about the remote. This new remote control is an eco-friendly remote that can be charged using solar cells on the back of the remote. It can also be charged with radio waves. That's right, it's completely wireless charging, so you don't have to worry about replacing batteries. And honestly, you don't really have to worry about charging the remote ever. It just kind of takes care of itself, which I think is a really fun feature. Now, you'll be using this remote to control Samsung's Tizen OS system, which looks similar to Tizen OS in the past. There have been a few updates. I'm not going to dig into that too deeply right now, but I do want to call attention to the gaming hub, which I'm going to get into a little bit later because that is going to be one of the big differentiating factors with this TV. Now, before we get into the picture quality, let's talk about some of the other features of this television, specifically with audio. As for onboard audio, it does support Samsung's object tracking sound. That means that audio objects will seem to come from whatever's happening on screen. It does not have actuators built onto the panel. These speakers are placed elsewhere in the cabinetry, but there are a series of drivers that are going to bring a very convincing, immersive audio experience. However, if you, like me, want an even more robust sound out of the television, you might want to add a Samsung soundbar. And Samsung has a few they're showing off here today. I think the big news here, though, is that you can get wireless Dolby Atmos, which means the TV will send a Dolby Digital Plus signal to a Samsung soundbar completely wirelessly that does support Atmos, which I think is a rather big deal. One feature I'm not seeing with this television, however, is Samsung's One Connect box. That particular piece of hardware, of which I am a rather big fan, I've been very frank about that in the past, not available for this television. It is available in Samsung's 8K sets and also with the QN95 QLED TV, just not with this particular television. So you're going to be hardwiring everything to the TV itself. So now let's get into the TV panel itself, which I know is of primary concern. There are a few things that we know for sure, a few things that we can infer, and a few things that we just don't know until we can actually test the television. What we do know for sure is that it is QD-OLED, as I said before, which means it's going to have very high color purity. That means that if you were to look at the colors red, green, and blue on a spectrometer, they would be very high and very narrow. That speaks to high color purity, and that's going to increase the TV's capabilities in terms of total color gamut, but also in terms of color brightness, which equals a higher color volume. Now, as for overall brightness, average picture level, and also peak HDR highlights, we haven't been able to test the TV yet, but I am going to take a guess here and say it's probably going to peak out somewhere in the 1000 nit territory. When we do get one of these in for testing, we'll be able to put it through thorough testing, but based on what I've seen so far, I think right around the 1000 nit area for peak HDR highlights is a fairly good bet. What the overall average picture level is going to look like in terms of brightness is really kind of up to Samsung and their processing. I will say that in the past, Samsung has tended towards a slightly brighter overall look. They really like to have a high contrast, high picture punch. Sometimes that means tracking a little high on the EOTF curve, and we may see that again here. But again, we're gonna have to wait until we can thoroughly test the TV to find out. Now, I know a lot of folks out there really want to talk about ABL, or automatic brightness limiter. I have not seen this be a big problem with WRGB OLEDs, and I don't expect it to be a big problem with this television. However, because the demo material that's on this TV right now can't be adjusted, I can't put whatever I want to on the screen, I have to deal with what's on there right now, I'm not able to make any determination on that. So once again, we'll have to wait until we get a review unit in to thoroughly test that. But based on what I've seen so far, I don't anticipate that being a big problem. It'll probably sit around 600 nits for a full field white and then peak at 1000 nits for HDR highlights. Again, just a guess, but I think that's a fairly reliable assumption based on the iterations of this technology that I've seen so far. Otherwise, I think we can expect perfect black levels, very deep inky blacks. We've got lots of light in this room, and I'm not seeing any issue with there being a graying out of the screen. As we know, this particular display technology doesn't have a polarizer layer, so there's a concern, I think, with some folks that if it's turned off, it doesn't look perfectly black. That does not translate into actual viewing. The blacks are deep, deep black, even with plenty of light in the room, so that is definitely not something to worry about. Now, just sort of standing back and tossing away all of the concerns about measurements and stuff, the TV looks fantastic. I mean, the processing looks very good. We are looking at high quality content here, so I don't know exactly how it's going to perform once you hook up your cable box or stream YouTube at a lower resolution, but what I am seeing so far is extremely encouraging. I expect this TV is going to perform exceptionally well, especially compared to other OLED TVs in the market. Color saturation is obviously very good. Now, this TV is in its standard mode, so it's got a color temperature that doesn't exactly match with the D65 white point, but once we put this thing into its movie or cinema mode, I expect that it's going to offer very high quality whites, grayscale, and colors across the spectrum. As I mentioned before, the TV is capable of 4K at 120 Hertz. It offers ALLM and pretty much all of the gaming-rich features that you would expect with 4 HDMI ports in support of that. As you know, Samsung does not support Dolby Vision, so that won't be available, but it does support HDR10 and HDR10+, and I think you're gonna get a rich HDR gaming experience out of this TV. One aspect of this TV, as well as most of Samsung's QLED lineup, that I think is specifically gamer-friendly is the anticipation of Samsung's gaming hub. We got a little bit of a preview of this at CES. A lot has not been nailed down, but I think sometime in June, maybe early July, we're gonna see the official announcements around Samsung's gaming hub come out. And that's gonna announce support for NVIDIA's cloud gaming platform, Stadia, Google's cloud gaming platform, as well as Xbox Live Game Pass cloud gaming platform. In fact, Samsung could wind up with an exclusive on the Xbox cloud gaming platform. We'll have to wait and see if that plays out, but that's a lot of cloud gaming built right into the TV with all kinds of connectivity supporting a great gaming experience. Now, interestingly enough, even though the NVIDIA cloud gaming platform is going to be supported, the TV does not support G-Sync, but it does support FreeSync Premium. So going back to the VRR discussion I had before, FreeSync Premium is supported in this TV, and so I don't think that variable refresh rate is ever going to be a problem. Finally, let's talk about sizes, pricing and availability. In terms of size, we're looking at a 55-inch model and a 65-inch model. Now this brings up a question that I've seen a lot since we started talking about QD-OLED, and that is, why only 55 and 65-inch models? Well, that actually might even bear its own video, but the short version of this is it's first gen technology. They're going to be cutting these things out of OLED mother glass, and right now they're set up to do 55 and 65-inch models out at Samsung Display. If you remember back to the early OLED days, at first all we had was a 55-inch WRGB OLED, and eventually we got a 65-inch model, and then eventually after that we saw a 77 and an 88 and so on and so forth. So it's first gen technology, folks. We're not going to get every size that we want, but after it's been out for a while, after it's been proven, after the enthusiasm over this TV is borne out in actual sales figures, I think we're going to be seeing bigger sizes. But for now, if you want to get in on the first generation of quantum.OLED TV, you're going to have to choose between a 55 or 65-inch version. Now, in terms of pricing, that's where we're seeing some really big surprises. $2,300 MSRP for the 55-inch model, and just $3,000 for the 65-inch model, which, let's be honest, $3,000 is still a fair amount of money. But let's look at some of the competition out there. You've got the LG C2 OLED, which at 65 inches is just $500 less expensive than this. And then you've got the LG G2 OLED, WRGB OLED technology, that is the same price for a 65-inch model. And then if you look at Sony's A95K for a 65-inch, you're looking at $4,000 more for that particular TV. That's a $1,000 delta between two TVs that have the same display technology. And when it comes right down to it, what's different between them more or less comes down to processing. Now, I've talked a lot about how great Sony's processing is, and when it comes to image quality, I definitely stand behind that. But I think we've all been talking a lot about where gaming comes in with Sony versus Samsung. And it's become clear that the Samsung TV is going to be better set up for next-gen gaming stuff. If you want all of the features, well, they're here. We've got the 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. We've got variable refresh rate available with local dimming not being disabled in this particular case. Basically, no limitations when it comes to gaming. All of the picture processing will still be in effect if you want it to be, so you're not going to have to give up on local dimming in order to have variable refresh rate, for instance. And then, like I said, if you add in the Samsung Gaming Hub, it just kind of takes things to the next level. So you've got your consoles, your gaming PCs, and then your cloud gaming, all available with this television, along with some premium sound quality and gorgeous picture quality. That's a really compelling case for the price. Based on what I've seen here so far today, I'm extremely excited to get the S95 into the lab, test it with my own content, really put it through its paces, take some measurements, and get a final word. But based on what we know so far, the S95 is looking really good. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. What do you think about the Samsung S95 QD-OLED TV so far? Are you excited? Is that pricing looking pretty good? Leave me a comment about that down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and here's 2 other videos I think you'll like.